Good afternoon, everyone. This is Professor Ron Llewellyn, your professor for the subject ethics. This subject is very dear to my heart because this subject really entails what I preach for the last 17 years as a pastor and advocate what I really love to see in our community. So ethics is really a one of a kind subject, but somehow a very critical subject in different point of view, especially with different religions, with different philosophies that entails in our world. It also resulted to different perspectives or views to different issues that entails ethical standards. So in these subjects, we are going to discuss what ethics is all about and what is its relevant in our society, in our community by which we are all moving and living with. So as Albert Einstein, one of the brilliant minds of our generations, he says, try not to become a man of success, but rather try to become a man of value. For Albert Einstein, it is wise for a person. Of course, all of us are seeking and looking for success in life, but to have a success without a value, for him it is nothing. Even in the Bible, it says you have to choose integrity over riches, according to the book of Proverbs. So Einstein believed that a man should have a value in order for him to be called successful. So Albert Einstein is not a pastor, but it is very wise for him to tell to his followers that in order for them to be successful in life, a man should be called a man of value. According to President Nelson Mandela, education is the most powerful weapon by which you can use to change the world. In your education, it also teaches us not only the practical, not only the fundamentals of our courses, but also a subject like this, ethics and standards, are being taught to you, being discussed to you, because education seems that it is the most powerful weapon in which we can change the world. Mandela is one of the greatest president of his time, one of the greatest statesmen of his time, not only for his country, but for every one of us who knows him that not that well, but at least in our history, we know Nelson Mandela, who he is. But to some, these two great men of their generation, to some, their views about values and ethics that is being teach in education and that will lead someone to be called successful if he's a man of value. Therefore, it behooves to all of us that ethics is such an important tool, an important knowledge and wisdom that we can have in this world, because having an ethical standards for our lives seems that we all have values in life. In if a certain country, if a certain person, if a certain family will have ethical standards in their lives, therefore we can expect that progress is in play. In the primitive time, there are no ethics being observed. But as time passes by, certain standards, certain ethical motivations or ethical standards being introduced in our world, in our society, in our community. Therefore, we also experience progress not only economically but also ethically. So many things, no? If you're going to look at the different words that ethics entails, it might be moral, it might be philosophy, it might be behavior, and it might be some issues. So in our studies of ethics, we will observe different issues in by which our community are all divided, and some politicians, some thinkers are all divided in different issues of life. So ethics is such an important tool by which we can set upon in our lives is our ethics for this particular issues. What is our standards for a particular issues? And take note, all of us have our own standard, but in many ways, we will not discuss religious standards imposed to us by different religious belief. But we are going to balance things out from the biblical perspective to the community perspective and the cultural and historical perspective of different issues that we're going to discuss in the entire semester. Okay? I hope you're coping up with our simple video discussions by which it's so important for all of us that identify ourselves in the world of ethics. The question today is, why do we need to be moral? Some thinkers such as Immanuel Kant, his answer is, to be moral is man's rational duty. As a philosopher of his time, a Christian philosopher, a theologian of one of a kind in his time, according to him, God or the Creator created man according to his own likeness, to his own imagery. Therefore, a man is a rational being. He can think, he can act, by which he can use his rationale in everything. So Immanuel Kant says, to be moral, why do we need to be moral? Because it is our duty as a rational person. Only irrational person can be an amoral with no moral thinking, or immoral, doing immoral things in his life. Thinkers such as Mill and Bentham says, to be moral is behoves to pleasure and happiness. Fletcher, it depends upon the situation to be moral. So some kind of a liberal thinking Fletcher he is. Because for him, it can be moral or immoral depending upon the situation. Kohlberg, a modern philosopher, a 20th century philosopher. To be moral, according to him, is we need to be moral because of our fear of punishment. To be immoral, it also entails punishment in life. So people think that they have to be moral because there are punishments that is in play whenever they commit immoral things. Perry says that person is a creature of values, therefore should be moral thing or moral person. Beauchamp thinks that person should adopt particular moral way of life since they're also created with values. No, they are in line with Perry and Beauchamp. Saint Augustine and Aquinas, both are priests and theologians, says that to be moral because there is a God. There is a God who give us the morality for a person, for a created being such as us. These two persons historically in the church history, they are rivers away in terms of their theological and philosophical point of view. But they both agree that a man should be moral because there is a God who created. Aristotle, Plato, and Socrates, philosophers, greatest philosophers of their time, perceives that morality is can result to happiness. A moral person is a happy person. In Hinduism, why they answer it a simple word. If you are going to be a moral person, there will be good karma, and if you are going to become an immoral person, you will you will experience the bad karma. Lao Tzu and Confucius, Chinese philosopher, says that morality is in harmony with nature. The people, is part of the nature, so therefore they should be moral in order for them to be in harmony with the nature. Mohammedans or Prophet Muhammad says a simple answer in also in connivance, at least in connection with Augustine and Aquinas, uh, for the Muslim says to be moral, and we need to be moral because of Allah. So these thinkers have a different views about why should a man like you and me should be a moral person. Are you a moral person? Are you an immoral person? Or are you an amoral person with no moral standards in life? So as a person, we can also answer this. We can also have a particular point of view. Why should a person like me or like you be a moral person? Why? So that would be also part of our reflection. Why should we need to be a moral person? Why do we need to be moral? At least we have three answers for this. Number one, we want to win the good opinion. Because if we are on the other side, therefore, we are not on the good opinion. We are not on the good perspective. We want to refrain from troubles. Morality will also give us peace and serenity in life because a moral person will always be free from any troubles in life. And most of all, we need to be moral because we are person. If you believe that you are created by God, you are created as a rational being, as I have said earlier. So therefore, if a rational person is doing what is right and has the ability to distinguish what is right and what is wrong, therefore you are a person. So logically, if a certain created being does not know how to distinguish what is right and what is wrong, what kind of creature he is? Because only the man, no, according to biblical history, and according to biblical accounts of ethics, only the man given by God and state by God that we are all created according to his imagery and likeness. So therefore, if we are created by God according to his imagery and likeness, therefore, we are a rational being because our God is a rational God. And he has the ability and the power to distinguish what is right and what is wrong. Therefore, as a rational being, we are also being asked to distinguish what is right and what is wrong. We have that kind of ability. Look at an animal. Can they distinguish what is right and what is wrong? Look at those dogs doing something outside. If you do you get that? For a moral person, they would never think of doing those things outside a room. Do we get it? Therefore, the animal is not immoral because animal has no ability to distinguish what is right and what is wrong. So we may say that those animals are amoral, without any moral standards or ethical standards that behoves in their lives. But as a person with rational thinking, the ability to think, we are a person that is being asked to distinguish what is right and what is wrong. Therefore, the morality should always be part of our being. So, why do we have rapists? Because they are immoral. Why do we have adulterers? Because they are immoral. Doing immoral things can make us a uh, irrational person. Logically, it will says. No, logically, that if a person is doing what he knows what is bad and yet happy in doing that, that kind of person is immoral person. So the rationale of studying ethics and establishing ethics as young as you are is such a necessary in order for us to survive this wicked and wretched world. Remember, this world is stinking with sin and immorality. So if a person like you and me will not have a particular ethical standards in life, therefore we will have a a hard time surviving this wicked and wretched world. According to a definition, it derives from the Greek word ethikos, by which we derive the word ethos, or uh, the translation of Greek word ethos is custom. And ethics deals with, it is also a good definition. Ethics deals with the morality of human conduct or human act. So in our discussions and future discussions in our class, we'll always deal with what is moral for a human being. What is moral for a human being to conduct or act in his life. Okay? According to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, ethics are rules of behavior based on ideas about what is morally good and bad. Well, with different religious belief, whether you're Christians or Catholics or even Muslims, you have different kinds of rules of behavior that govern our ethical standards, whether that is morally good or bad. But at least, whether whatever kind of religions you belong to, you have a rules of behavior. The problem with this world is because of the postmodernism, there are now what we call lack of absolute truth, wherein this world will distinguish what is right and what is wrong based on their feelings, based on the empirical evidence being stated by their own volitions. So Merriam-Webster is correct. Ethics are rules of behavior. Ethics are also an area of study that deals with ideas about what is good and bad behavior. Okay? So ethics is a distinguishment of good and bad. And it is a philosophical branch by which we deals with what is morally right and wrong. So, based on these definitions, we are all bound to discuss that ethics are all morally right. And it is what we can say, at least it should be absolute in our community or society. We should never say, that's not my philosophy, because ethics are standard in this world. For example, uh, every state will always implore or at least employ particular ethics for their countrymen. One good example is when you hear the national anthem being played, what are you going to do? You stand up and at least put your right hand to your left chest, and then or at least you stand straight and give respect to our national anthem. That is ethical standard. But those standards we all agree, Filipinos. But there are standards among Filipinos, ethics, at least issues that Filipinos are divided. And that is what we're gonna discuss in the next or in the future discussions that we have. Ethics is a normative science. We believe in that, because it establishes a standard of norms of human conduct. It also refers to uh, goodness or badness of a human being, the rightness or wrongness of their human act. So, what is the difference between ethics and morality? In etymology, ethics comes from the Greek word ethos, means custom. In morality comes from the Latin word mori, that also means custom. So in etymology, they're just almost the same. Okay? But in normative science, ethics is a theoretical science of good and bad. It is by which the standards set for a particular country. Morality is the opposite of it, the practice. So in Greek, we have what we call orthodox, and we also have the orthopraxy. Orthodoxy and orthopraxy. Orthodoxy means right doctrine, right dogma, right ethics, orthodoxy. Orthopraxy means right practice, practice of your dogmas. So ethics and moralities are intertwined or interconnected together. Ethics are theoretical issues. Morality is the practice or the applied ethics. Why? We have this saying, knowing is different from doing. There are people who know what is right and what is wrong, and yet they are not doing it. Actually, in the scriptures, in James chapter 2, I think the Bible says if there are certain person who knows all the laws, no, and do it not, that is a sin. So every person who knows the doctrine, who knows the ethical principles, but does not do what is right or morally right, therefore, okay, therefore, those persons are immoral. Therefore, divisions of ethics. We have the descriptive and normative, practical and critical. Those are intertwined together. The descriptive philosophy describe what is morally right and what is morally wrong. And then it also distinguishes what are the norms of a particular country. Different countries we have different norms, and different country have a different practice of that norms. Now, from the descriptive to normative and practical, no, different countries will always have the criticism for each descriptions, in each normative, and each practical essence. So those four divisions are all important in order for us to set a particular ethics for our particular country, at least on our very end. Ethics covers these following good dilemmas. No? What? Number one, how to live a good life. That is a dilemma. Because of the postmodernism world, living a good life is different perspective in different person. I can live a good life by just living with this. But somebody will tell, I could not live with that. I would not have a happy life. I would not have a good life by just having that. So there is no standard. Ethical dilemmas also includes rights and responsibilities and its language. Because in this postmodern world, the language of right and wrong differs. So that is the problem of the Gen X, the Gen Z, and then the the three different generations. The language by which right and wrong. Look at your lolos and lolas. Your lola would not wear cropped up dresses or cropped up sandals. They would not do that, and they will tell that you're immoral. But in this current world, in this contemporary world, wearing cropped up is just, some says it's a norm. But for me, it's not a norm. It should not be a norm for a Christian country like us. But for the young people, it's already a norm. Oh, wearing ripped jeans for these generations are just a norm. But the language of it in the 50s, in the 60s, that's wrong. And then our moral decision, what is good and what is bad. So how do we postulate in ethics? Okay? We have three different reasons on how we postulate ethics. Once we say postulate, how do we express our ethics? As a person, as a different individual, we all do have different postulations or expressions of ethics. But for me, number one is the existence of God. As a Christian nation, we all do believe, whether you are Christians or Catholics or even Muslim, we all do believe of a supreme being, the greatest among the greatest, the creator. So if we believe that there is a God who creates, that God is a God who postulates and live in ethical standards. Therefore, you will express your ethics with the reason in the rationale that there is a God. Number two, existence of intellect and free will. According to different philosophers, Greek philosophers, Roman philosophers, or philosophers of our time, a person like you and me has the intellect, the rationale, and the free will to do things. But interconnecting intellect and free will always result as a person result to a thinking process. If I'm gonna do this, if I'm not gonna do that. Why? Because intellect and free will sometimes engage and disengage. Again, many times ethics or intellect and free will, okay, they engage and disengage because of the fact that our intellect might not say it's wrong, but our free will say, I want to do it. So that's how people right now postulates their ethics. And then, of course, the spirituality of a person and his immortality of the soul. In the Filipino context, we always say that do not do bad things because you're gonna go to hell. Diba? Your lola will always tell you that. So even your lola, or our old grandmas and granddads believe in the spirituality of a person. For whatever religions that you are in, they believe in the spirituality of a man and its immortality of the soul. Immortality in heaven when you do good, some says, no, but that's not what the Bible says. And immortality of the soul in hell if you're doing bad. So that's how we postulate ethics in life. So how do we compare with other sciences that deals with man? Okay, ethics and psychology. Now, psychology deals with the intellect, free will, and conducts. And ethics will engage psychology to tell the intellect what is moral, to tell your free will how would you translate your free will and conduct into a moral life. So that is how ethics and psychology engage with each other. In sociology we deals with human relationships, proper setup of order in every society, and even observance of proper laws. That's why political science is a part of sociology. So ethics will always give us moral laws, orders of right and wrong action. So even in crafting laws or even in sociological life, ethics engage. Ethics and logic. Logic deals with man's correct thinking. So ethics will deals with man's correct doing and living. So logic will give us the orthodoxy. Ethics will give us the praxis. It will definitely correct what are the wrong things that our lives is doing. Ethics and anthropology. Anthropology is the study of man. Anthropology means defines the origin of man and the behavior of the primeval man, if you believe in this kind of anthropological belief. But ethics will always give that man, that anthropos, no, in the Greek word, that anthropos, the principles of right conduct. Ethics and theology, the goal is the same. So if you believe in Kant, if you believe in Aquinas and Saint Augustine, the same goal is we have a God. God exists. And the same result, the right living. Though ethics and theology have different bases. Ethics deals with philosophy. Theology deals with the scriptural, or at least the sacred literatures by which a certain person believes. Okay? So, morality and human existence. Okay? I hope that we are all getting that. So let's move forward to morality and human existence. Morality and our existing in this planet Earth, okay, gave us the notions that all man who is living in this world should be morally enough, no? Because man is the only moral being. Okay? He is the being of his action. He has all the intellect and will. So if you believe that we are all created by God, we are only the moral person. As I have said earlier, an animal, a dog will always have sex with dogs inside of their house and outside of their house, no matter what people will say and do against them. Because man is a moral being. We'll never do that. Are you going to do that? Of course not. You are a moral person. So therefore, you're not going to do that. You're not going to perform things that you think, that you believe that is not morally right and morally correct. Look at this, no? As an animal, okay, man, no? Animal, man, rational. So in animal, yeah, they have the knowledge, the appetency, the senses, the instinct. They all have that. No, sa man, no, rational tayo. We have the knowledge and the appetency. Underneath the knowledge, we have the senses and intellect, meaning we use our senses right. We have the instinct and we have the will. We are using our instinct by virtue of the will. Okay? But if you are a firm believer of a man as a rational animal, well, I don't think so. I do not believe that we are all we are all a rational animal. We are not animal. God created all of us. But if we're going to compare these things, no, intellect compared with will, what is the difference between the two? Okay, the intellect entails wisdom, truth, thinking, knowing. The will connects with the virtue, what is good, what are going to do, and choosing. So almost interconnected with each other, just like ethics and morality. Okay? Now, what is the concrete basis of morality? These issues is really different from different perspective. Now, when one encounters a moral experience, it can be a basis of morality. Our moral experience can ensure when certain person encounters a moral problem. So your experience, you will tell that's bad. Your parents will tell, oh, that's bad. Okay? A person encounters a moral problems when the problem injuncts him of moral obligations. But for me, as a pastor, my concrete basis of morality is the Bible that I read every day, that I study every day, and the God who created that, who wrote that Bible, the God who created me according to his imagery and likeness. I believe God is the basis and the concrete and the sole basis of my morality. As a person, no, I can distinguish what is good and right, bad or wrong, no, or good in between good, what is which is better or the best, between the bad, at least what is the lesser bad or the worst. We have all the ability of doing that because we are a rational person created by a rational God. Okay? So I hope and I pray as we have our first introduction of ethics, we might be losing things of confusion of what is ethics is all about. But one thing that I would love to leave behind, no, at least I would love to leave with you in this video discussion. Ethics is such an important thing for all of us. Ethics is such an important thing in order for us to succeed in life. May God bless you and have a nice day.